Hey guys, I'm going to talk about solving multi-step equations now. This is the next section in our book, so I wanted to give you a preview of what we will be doing. So I'm going to talk us through all of these that I solve. So a multi-step equation is an equation with many steps. We have learned how to solve one-step equations, and we've learned how to solve two-step equations, and now we get to the multi-step. So I'm just going to label this problem A. Say I have 15 minus 2x equals 3x. Well, as you can see, we have an x here on the right side and an x here on the left side. This is going to happen, and so we need to get those together. Now, we don't want to move the 3x because it is alone over here, and we don't want our equation set equal to 0, so therefore I'm going to add my 2x to the 3x. And remember, these are like terms because they have the same variable and the same exponent. Each variable has an exponent of 1. So that's 5x, and then we will divide by 5, and x equals 3. So I can check this by substituting in 3 for x. So negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 15 minus 6 is 9. And 9 does equal 9. That is a true statement. So our answer is correct. All right, let's go to another one. All right, so in this example, we have an x on the right, and we have 2 x's on the left. So if you have like terms that are on the same side together, this positive 3x and this negative 12x are on the same side of the equation together. We are just going to add those. So 3 plus negative 12 is going to be negative 9. Or we could say 3 minus 12 will still be negative 9. So 7 minus 9x equals 3x plus 1. So again, if you have like terms on the same side of the equation, you're not going to do opposite operation to combine them. You are just going to use the signs that they have in front of them to combine them. So now we have a negative 9x on the left and a 3x on the right. Now we can do the opposite operation to bring that 9x over to the right. Six twelfths is a fraction, and I tell my students, yes, you can divide 6 by 12 and you will get a decimal, but we're going to focus on leaving our answers in fraction form. So even if they're an improper fraction, we're going to do that as well. So 6 twelfths can be simplified. It can be simplified by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. what am I talking about? It can be divided by 6. I'm sorry. 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then 12 divided by 6 is 2. So 1/2 is your answer. And we need to check it. So I'm going to come over here. This is the check for problem B. So x is 1/2. Now this is where improper fractions come in handy. So positive 3 times positive 1/2. I've said this in a previous video. Anytime you have an integer or a whole number like 3, you can make it into a fraction by putting it over 1, because 3 divided by 1 is still 3. So putting it like this will not change the value of 3. So 3 times 1/2 is actually 3/2. And then negative 12 times 1/2 will be negative 6. Here's another 3/2. We have plus 1. Now, the calculator will come in handy now. And I always tell my students, if you're putting a fraction in the calculator, you need to put parentheses around it. So we have 7 plus 3/2 minus 6. I got 2.5, which will be 5/2. Or I can put it as decimal too. Same thing. And then we have 3/2. And we get 5/2 on the right as well. Or in decimal form, we have 2.5. So that is a true statement, and so is that. So we know that it checks. It's good to get practice by substituting in fractions for a variable, because let's say our answer was an improper fraction, or even a fraction that that repeated. So 0.66666, it keeps repeating. There's no way that you could put that as a decimal and represent it here if you plug it in for the variable, because you can't show all of the 6's. But you could show the fraction of that, which I'm not really sure what that is at this point. So, all right, let's do another one. Okay, let's see. How about one with the distributive property in it? So here's C. We have 2 times 2m plus 4 equals 3/4 times 24 minus 8m. Now, anytime you have grouping symbols in an equation such as this, we have these grouping symbols that are grouping these binomials. A binomial is 2 terms. So 2m is a term and 4 is a term. Well, they're being added together, so that's a binomial. So anytime you have the distributive property, you have to do that first before you can solve anything. So we have to distribute this 2, so that's 4m plus 8. All right, 3/4 times 24. What you can do is you can say in your calculator 24 times 3 and press enter, and then divide by 4. And that's 18. And then the same thing with the negative 8. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Divided by 4 is negative 6. And I'm going to check that with my calculator. 3 times 8, yeah, divided by 4. 6. All right? So do you remember what happens when you have variables on the opposite sides of the equal sign? We are going to do the opposite operation to bring them together. So if at all possible, you would like your variable, that variable term, to be positive. So I'm going to add 6m to both sides first. So I can have a positive 10m over here on the left. If I had subtracted 4m on both sides first, I would have gotten a negative 10m. And since we'll have to divide by 10 at the very end to isolate m, sometimes a negative in front of it will, people will either forget that sign, or sometimes people just don't bring it down, and so that would be an incorrect answer, even though it's just a sign. So 18 minus 8 is 10. M equals 1. I'm going to check it. I'm going to replace the m with 1. All right, so order of operations states that we have to simplify what's in the grouping symbols first. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6. So that's 2 times 6. Then 24 minus 8, that negative 8 times 1 is still negative 8. So 24 minus 8 is 16. 2 times 6 is 12. And then we can say 16 times 3 and then divide by 4. And that is also 12. And that is correct. All right, I'm going to do a few where we're stating if the equation has one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions. So I'm going to do 12y plus 6. This is D. Okay, 12y plus 6 equals 6 times 2y plus 1. Now solution means answer. So when you're finding the answer to an equation, you're finding the solution. So one solution will mean one answer. So for example, x equals 2. That is one answer. Or m equals negative 5. That is one answer. Let's see the next one. No solution means that there is no answer to the problem. So after you're done solving, this is what you'll see. You'll see a statement that looks like something like this. Let's say you have 2 equals 5. Well, if that's what you have at the end of solving the equation, you ask yourself, is that a true statement? Does 2 equal 5? Or will 2 ever equal 5? And the answer is no. So that is no solution. Another example, let's say negative 1/2 equals 2/7. Are those two fractions equal? No. So therefore there's no solution. Now infinitely many means that your variable can stand for any number, any real number, and the equation would be true. So for example, after solving an equation that has infinitely many solutions, your your last line of your equation will look like this. It could say 0 equals 0, or 4 equals 4, or negative 9 equals negative 9. All of these are true statements. So whenever you get a statement like this after solving, then you know that your solution is infinitely many solutions. Alright, so I'm going to solve this. So remember, if you have the distributive property, we need to do that first before we start solving. So it's 12y plus 6 equals 12y plus 6. Alright, we're going to try to bring our variables together, so we have to do the opposite operation. So I'm going to subtract this 12y and take it away from both sides. Well, that goes away. You're left with 6 equals 6. So which solution is it? Is it one solution, no solution, or infinitely many? It is infinitely many. And you would have to write that. You would have to actually say infinitely many. Okay? Let's do another one. Let's see. Okay, I'll do 5 times 1 plus 2m is 1/2 times 8 plus 20m. So remember the distributive property. It's 5 plus 10m. 1/2 times 8 is 4, because 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then 1/2 of 20 is 10. So 1/2 times positive 20m will be 10m. Now we want to get our variables together, so we're going to do the opposite operation to move one to the other side. Well, that is 0, that is 0, and you bring down what's left. Over here you have a 5, or equal sign in the middle, and here you have a 4. So which solution would it be? Would it be one solution, no solution, or infinitely many? This would be no solution. Because 5 does not equal 4. Okay? I hope that that gives you a good view into what we will start doing tomorrow in class. So, and parents, I hope that this helps you if you would like to help your student study or work their homework at home.